Real quick before you watch this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified. I'm going to be posting a ton of AFC North training camp content, which means for any team in the AFC North that's going to have a live stream of practices, I am going to mine through the content, get through all the filler, and just take out the juicy bits. So if you want juicy bits of all AFC North training camp content, keep it locked and loaded here. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you're notified. Back to the video. So day 3 of Cleveland Browns training camp is in the books. It was the first day of pads, and it was also raining like crazy, unfortunately, during the entire padded period. Now, I do think something important to note is that Kevin Stefanski did not change a single thing when that rain came pouring down, and it came pouring down pretty significantly. Never did Kevin Stefanski make them retreat into the indoor facility, which I've seen multiple NFL teams do. Never have I seen him kind of shut this thing down or slow it down in order to account for the rain. No, he just went full steam ahead with the rain and practicing it, which is something I haven't seen a lot of people who coach for the Cleveland Browns do. And I think that is important in setting the tone, not with the players, because I think that tone has been set a while ago if Kevin Stefanski is doing his job right. But it does a good job in setting the tone with the fans, because I think a lot of people came in here, saw Kevin Stefanski and his Harvard education and everything like that, and assumed that he would run a softer camp, right? Because, you know, he couldn't be as tough as the football guy, Freddie Kitchens and John Dorsey and everything involved with that. But no, he kept him out there and he made him practice in what looked like a monsoon, quite frankly. It was pretty bad rain for most of the part. So that's why what happened at this practice, I think, should be taken with a grain of salt. Not only was it the first day of pads, but also it was raining like crazy, and I think you saw some bad things out of the offense because of that, but you also saw some good things regardless if it was raining or not out of this defense. First thing to note is that there was no Jarvis Landry and no Carl Joseph, and about 3/4 of a way through this practice, Nick Chubb went out. Now, this was due to a hit between him and Mac Wilson. I think they just got carried away or somebody fell on top of each other. And that led to Nick Chubb having to get evaluated for a concussion. Now, whether he has a concussion is unknown, but we can assume Nick Chubb's probably not going to practice for about an entire week just to be safe because, again, Nick Chubb doesn't need a ton of reps to get ready. And, you know, it's not like you're trying to figure out this offense and figure out what Nick Chubb's role is going to be in this offense. He's a critical part to what the Browns are doing, but when it comes to whether he needs to physically be on the field in order to be prepared for that, I just don't think that's the case. I think if you get him on the field like 4 or 5 days before you play Baltimore, you'll be fine ultimately. So that was a scare, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the massive scare that it sounded like it was going to be when you first heard Nick Chubb left practice. I almost panicked and screamed and did all this stuff that would have been appropriate if Nick Chubb would have been lost for any significant amount of time. So thankfully, he's not going to be gone that long. I don't think this is going to ever pour into the season with him. But, you know, it was a scary moment there at practice. Some interesting things I noticed today. Grant Delpit started with the ones, played a lot more with the ones. Now, again, Carl Joseph was not playing today. That had a ton to do with the fact that Grant Delpit was out there, but more time he gets with the ones. I think he was playing in that strong position. Just get him out there, get him that experience, and it will be better for Grant in the long run. He had a big hit earlier on, but he kind of got beat on a route, so he just came back and got physical again. It serves to me to kind of confirm what I believe about Grant Delpit, and that is Grant gets all this flack for being a bad tackler, but I think people don't look at the proper context for his bad tackling. Is he a bad tackler in the boxes last year at LSU? Absolutely. And that's where you kind of worry about him. But when it comes to getting guys off seams or coming down off screens, he's actually pretty fine in that category. And that hit was kind of an example of that. Speaking of another guy who had tackling issues coming out of LSU, but seemingly improved upon those issues when it came to the NFL, Greedy Williams, actually one of the higher-rated defensive backs when it comes to run defense in 2019 than anybody else, according to Pro Football Focus. So pretty good thing there for Greedy Williams last year, but he's clearly the number 2. No more competition with Terrence Mitchell. No more rotating, no more trying to see if he fits here or there. They're pretty much committing to Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams as the two corners on this team, and I think that is a good move for the Cleveland Browns. I think the more you get those guys reps, the more you get those guys used to each other, and the more you let those guys play a little bit man on the outside, the better your defense is going to be. So thankfully, that seems like that's set in stone. It doesn't seem like there's any competition in any way, shape, or form for that number 2 corner spot, which I like to see. But there is another defensive back that is worth talking about, and that is Kevin Johnson, because for the 3rd day in a row, this dude's impressed. He's taken some reps with the ones. He made a few plays today. Kevin Johnson looks like he's going to actually contribute to this team, and this is coming from somebody who was not buying into Kevin Johnson at all when they signed him in the offseason. I thought, he was a guy trying to make the team. At this point, and again, it's early, he doesn't look like somebody who's trying to make the team. He looks like a guy you have to decide how much playing time he's going to get in the regular season, because he's been that good in camp as a slot guy, as a extra DB. He's just been very good whenever he's gotten the opportunity to be out there. And I'm really looking forward to what this secondary can look like with Greedy Williams, Denzel Ward, Kevin Johnson, and a guy like Grant Delpit over top, because Greedy, Grant, and Kevin Johnson are bigger defensive backs, so that gives you more flexibility, and that might make up for some of the deficiencies in the linebacking core that are there, especially against a team like the Ravens and especially against the run. When you add Carl Joseph on top of that, who's already a run specialist from that strong safety position, you start to see the makeup of this roster and how they're planning to make up for some of the holes on the defense. Now, Baker and Odell had a great day on Sunday. Today, they left some things on the table. You could tell there was some miscommunication. There was one play where Odell was wide open, but Baker overthrew him. But you could tell on the communication that Odell was the one who felt like he did something wrong. Even when he went back to talk to Baker Mayfield, like, you could tell by his body language that he felt like he did something wrong, which was interesting. So I would like to of getting a better picture of what happened in that route to know what he felt like he didn't do. But they weren't on the same page as they were yesterday. Again, 1st day in pads, ton of rain, and they played outside in that rain. So all those things had to do with it. But you would have liked to see these guys look more cohesive together. Now, again, Jarvis Landry also did not practice today, so that might have factored into it. But Baker overall just didn't look that great today in any of the team periods. He kind of was missing in some areas. He checked down a lot, which is nice to see because there weren't a lot of checkdowns in last year's offense, and that led to a very high interception number. So it's nice to see that he's willing to take those checkdowns. But I would have liked to see him, complete more of these balls when he ripped it downfield, and some of them were there. David Njoku's also somebody I would say did not have a good day today. Dropped a couple of balls. Just did not look like the clear number 2 guy. And then they had some reps in there where Harrison Bryant was there. He looked pretty decent. Even Steven Carlson looked decent. Austin Hooper looked fine. So everybody was shining in that tight end room except for David Njoku. So hopefully he has a better day tomorrow or today whenever you watch this. But did not impress in that first game. But again, tons of rain. 1st day in pads, so take this with a grain of salt. And this linebacker unit actually looked pretty good today. Sione Takitaki made some plays. Jordan Elliott, the defensive tackle from Missouri, the 3rd rounder, he made some plays. Jacob Phillips made some plays on the 2nd unit. And Mack Wilson, before he hurt Nick Chubb, actually looked pretty good today. B.J. Goodson even made some decent plays here and there. So the linebacking core actually looked pretty solid today. I hope they keep that up because that will be very good for this team. I would love to be wrong about the linebackers, and today they look great. Let's hope they continue that. And if you couldn't guess by hearing my descriptions of what happened during this practice, if I had to put a word on what that practice felt like the 1st day in pads, it felt sloppy, quite frankly. Not from a logistical or structural standpoint. I think the coaches did an excellent job structuring the practice today. It's just from a on-the-field product standpoint, it felt sloppy. Now, there were a ton of reasons why it felt sloppy. 1st day in pads. You're coming off of only having a 2-week ramp-up period when you're used to having like a 4-month program in the offseason to get to this point. And it was raining a ton. So, yeah, things were going to be messy. Things were going to look sloppy. And things weren't going to be as consistent. Offensively, I would have liked to see a better connection between Odell and Baker today in the first day in pads. David Njoku, I would have loved to see him be more consistent with his hands. Again, that's the big question about David Njoku. And if he can't come out on the other side of that problem as a positive, then he's going to have a hard time seeing playing time this year. And again, even on the offensive line, the run blocking wasn't as superb as it was the first 2 days of camp. Again, they weren't in pads, so it's probably going to look good without pads. But they got clogged up a lot. A lot of guys were making plays. It was almost a little concerning how good the linebackers looked when you're trying to wonder how good this offensive line is going to be. Now, the good news about the offensive line is that when Baker was passing the ball, they looked pretty good. Now, it should be noted, no Myles Garrett. So, offensive line should probably look good if there's no Myles Garrett, given what other offensive lines look like when there was no Myles Garrett last year. But overall, for the offense, it was a sloppy day. For the defense, it was a better day. It was a better day than they've had. Now, again, once you get into pads for defenses, this is usually where things turn around in camp. And also, it was raining a ton, which is going to be more of an advantage to the defense. And they took advantage of it, and that's what you would hope they would do. Without Myles Garrett, they made plays against the run. They were in the right places. The linebackers didn't look like they were going all over the places. And most important things about the linebackers, that they didn't look like they were inexperienced. They didn't look like they were getting fooled by things. The Browns did a ton of end arounds and trick plays to kind of take those linebackers off guard. They stayed disciplined. They never lost their focus, and they never let one of those plays beat them. So kudos to the Browns linebacker room. I'm not a big fan of it as it stands so far. A lot of people aren't fans of it, but so far throughout camp, they have held up. I hope this continues. Some other minor things to take a note of is that Donovan Peoples-Jones continues to have that positive momentum roll down, made a couple plays today, got open, didn't get the ball to him a lot because Case Keenum just missed him a couple of times, but he looked good out there today. And again, Jordan Elliott made some plays with the first team defense, which is going to be important because with no Andrew Billings, he might be asked to step in there. So that's what the first day of pads was. It was inevitably pretty sloppy at the end of the day, but it's the first day in pads, and it was literally raining the entire time. And not just like light rain, tons of rain. So I'll give them the pass on this. I'm looking forward to see what they're going to look like in pads today when they practice for the second time in pads. Hopefully they look better, more crisp. But that's my thoughts on day 3 of Browns camp. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Are you worried about Nick Chubb's potential concussion? Do you think there's going to be something that's going to linger on to the season? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.